All right, another great request from a viewer who called out another bourbon I have never done a full review on. This is Ancient Age 10 Star from Buffalo Trace. Well, sort of. You see, not all products that are bottled at Buffalo Trace are actually Buffalo Trace products. Now, what is known to be the fabled Buffalo Trace Mash Bill number 2 is a higher rye mash bill that is owned by the brand called Age International, which includes products like Rock Hill Farms, Elmer T. Lee, Blanton's, and this one, Ancient Age. So let's dive in more to this budget bourbon right here on What's on the Shelf Wednesday. What's up, folks? Welcome back to the Master Drum Whiskey Room. I am Jason C, and this is What's on the Shelf Wednesday, the series where I bring you quick reviews of whiskeys you can actually find on the shelf, including bourbons, rye, scotches, Irish whiskeys, and more. Make sure you like, subscribe, and help me hit 100,000 subs here in 2024. And as always, if you have any other suggestions for What's on the Shelf Wednesday, please leave them down below in the comments. Okay, a little bit more about this bottle. So back in 1992, Age International was bought by a Japanese company called Takara Holdings, who immediately turned around and sold the distillery to Sazerac, but retained the rights to certain brands like Blanton's. Now, Sazerac has the sale and distribution rights for their Mash Bill number 2 bourbons, but Takara owns them still to this day. Pretty smart move. Enter Ancient Age Bourbon 10 Star. Now, as I mentioned, this uses the same Mash Bill number 2 as brands such as Blanton's, Elmer T. Lee, Rock Hill Farms, and Hancock's Reserve, but is often found on the shelf for significantly less money, about 20 bucks in fact. So back before the bourbon boom, Ancient Age 10 Star had a 10-year age statement, but as bourbon sales skyrocketed and demand went with it, there wasn't enough age product to meet that demand, which brought this bottle from a 10-year age statement to now only about 3 years old. So these have been popping up on shelves the more I travel. I've been seeing them a lot more lately. I don't know if this is just a product of Buffalo Trace and their new distribution strategy, their new distribution partners, and this just kind of showing up. But this ended up being on the shelf here in Ohio for about 20 bucks. So I grabbed one. Let's dive into it. Here we go. So the youthfulness does come through quite a bit. I mean, it does come through very corn forward, a little bit grain forward. It's typical as bourbon gets. You get your vanillas, your caramels. I mean, they're there, but they're very, very light. This isn't, you're not getting like deep brown sugars or anything like that. It's a very light bourbon. So that kind of gives you an indication on, age a little bit here too. Yeah, it kind of gives me like caramel corn vibes, which is a note I usually pick up on younger whiskeys generally, so let's give it a try. More of the same on the palate, kind of caramel corn heavy, but a little bit more vanilla, I think, is on the palate too, which kind of makes it a nice, easy sipper. I remember people telling me that this bottle was, oh my gosh, if you can't find Blanton's, this is actually a really good alternative, but here's something I don't do very often. I'm gonna drink Blanton, so here we go. So here it is, the horsey top. It's here. So let's get a pour of this one. So this is 93 proof versus the 90 proof that's in the Ancient Age. And again, they both use the Mash Bill 2. Now Blanton's these days is said to be closer to about a 5-year product, maybe 6 years, depending on the single barrel. A couple years could make a pretty big difference, especially in Kentucky. Let's see if there's some pretty good similarities here. Wow, I gotta say, in this case, the Blanton's is pretty well beyond the Ancient Age 10 Star. This particular Blanton single barrel has a lot of toffee and a lot of cherry, which is, two notes you generally get from Buffalo Trace products. And when you compare it to the Ancient Age just comes off like straight cornbread in a glass compared to this. All right, let's try the Blanton's. Very cherry on the palate on this single barrel. Cherry vanilla all day long, which is actually a nice profile for a good Blanton single barrel. I like when you get a lot of cherry and vanilla. Sometimes it ends up just being a little bit too flat. This is a decent single barrel here that I'm drinking from Blanton's. Don't say that very often, but this is actually a decent one. But man, next to this Ancient Age, God, it just falls flat so bad. I mean, this is like, Ancient Age might be like one step above the Traveler at this point. I mean, 90 proof, 93 proof, You could definitely get more of the flavors, the deep, rich flavors from the Blantons versus the Ancient Age 10-year. So as far as a Blanton's killer or a good alternative, I mean, maybe for some people it could be, but I don't really think it's close. Let's do one more comparison to the Benchmark 90 proof. All right, so here's the Benchmark small batch 90 proof. I just figured I'd get another 90 proof in the offering. Obviously, if you guys don't know the Benchmark series, they have, you know, a bunch of different offerings from this lineup, different proof points. They have top floor, they have full proof, they have a single barrel, all, you know, pretty decent depending on what you like. But when it comes to the differences here, again, even the Benchmark small batch, I think, has a little bit of a richer nose here than the Ancient Age does. Yeah, it's definitely not as flavorful as the Blanton's is, but at the same time, I do think it gives you a little bit more than the Ancient Age does. Yeah, the more you drink the Ancient Age, it's just like, for 20 bucks, honestly, I'd rather pay $10 more to get like a Cooper's Craft 100 from Brown-Forman. I mean, even the Old Forester Signature 100 proof, I would probably take over this for this about the same price, about 20, 22 bucks. So, you know, while this isn't a terrible whiskey, it's, you know, for the name that it has, the 10-year age statement that it once had, it would be nice to see this get back up to, you know, at least a 5, 6 year, 7-year age statement. The brand does have a lot of history. It's got some lore behind it. I don't know. I just think to bring it down from a 10-year to about a 3-year, especially in today's market with so much competition. What's interesting is that when the bourbon boom was happening, people were scooping up the Ancient Age 10 stars because they found out it was the same mash bill as Blanton's was. So people were like, okay, this is kind of like Blanton's light. But I think this is actually even farther off than Blanton's than what I originally thought. I mean, for the competition that's out there now, especially with the cheaper whiskeys, cheaper bourbons, even this Benchmark, it doesn't even measure up to this. If they were to bring this back to a 5, 6, 7-year age statement, I mean, I don't know if they could because of the demand of Blanton's, but it would be kind of cool to see it that way. But I'm sure there's a handful of people that love this bourbon, but for me, this one, I don't know. It just doesn't do it for me. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed this review on What's on the Shelf Wednesday as we reviewed the Ancient Age 10 star. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit that subscribe button below. Please hit the like button. And if you haven't yet, find me on Instagram. Let me know down in the comments what you think of this one. Is this a bottle you're still looking for, a bottle you still enjoy for the price? And also, if you have any other suggestions for upcoming What's on the Shelf Wednesday episodes, please let me know down in the comments. You guys seem to be really happy that I brought it back, and I'm getting a lot of great suggestions from you, so keep them coming. And as I always say, it's not about the whiskey, it's the people you share with. Cheers. I'll see you next time right here on the Master and Drum. Cheers, folks.